Hey, good morning, P-Dub podcast fans. It's Coffee, another session of Coffee with P-Dub. Hey, we have a returning guest who we really enjoyed our time with the first roundabout. His name is Mr. David Bearman, the deputy editor of sports betting for ESPN. So we have the pleasure of bringing him back on. And we're going to talk a little bit about the show, the Daily Wager and Chalk as well, which he oversees. And I think we'll give you a little bit of insight into what goes on behind the scenes, and also talk a little bit about somebody on social media that really just was groundbreaking female in the sports betting industry. And we'll talk a little bit about that and her, offer from ESPN as well. So without further ado, let's bring in David. And good morning, David. How are we doing?
Good. How's it going, bud? How are you?
I'm doing well. It's early here in Southern California. I think you're on the East Coast, but I got my coffee. You're probably past that already.
I'm about halfway through my Mountain Dew kickstart that I have every single morning to get me going. Two young kids, trying to wake up, get them to school and back, and working on sports betting the rest of the day.
That's my guy right there. That's my guy. So we're going to do something a little different than most. I think we're going to try to get it inside some intel from you just on the show, the Chalk, the Daily Wager, and kind of what goes on behind the scenes. And also talk a little bit about, Kelly joining the team as well. So let's start off with Chalk, and tell us a little bit about Chalk and, you overseeing ESPN Chalk.
Sure. ESPN Chalk it's vertical on ESPN.com, just like you have an NFL site, you have an NBA site. We have a sports betting site. So our sports betting website is ESPN Chalk. It's where we have daily information for all things sports betting, whether it's our best bets on NBA games or the golf tournament that started today, or feature stories from our main news writer, which is David Purdom. Feature stories, including tomorrow being the 3-year anniversary of when the Supreme Court repealed the PASPA law, allowing or basically pulling the federal ban from sports betting and allowing states to decide whether sports betting was going to be legal or not. And as you've seen, we're now in over 20 states. David Purdom will have that feature tomorrow on how far we have come in the 3 years since then. Sports betting is obviously now more in your face than ever. But that's, those features, as well as picks, analysis, and any sort of news that goes on is on the ESPN Chalk site.
So I threw the Chalk is this the Chalk website you're referring to on the screen right here?
Yes, that is.
Yeah. And so you're overseeing this page and kind of all the content that relates to it as well, right?
Yeah, you'll see right on there we have our picks for our best bets of week 1 of the NFL, since that was what came out yesterday with the NFL schedule release, as well as all the lines. And that's the feature story right there. On the left-hand side, you'll see a link to all the podcasts that we do, Stanford Steve and the Bear, the Daily Wager podcast that we now have 5 days a week, as well as Doug Kazarian's Behind the Bets. Those are all linked on the left side. And then all of our news columns are up on the right-hand side. So what you'll see is news on the right, links to all of our shows on the left, and right down the middle, you'll see any of our columns, whether it be the schedule release, bets to make now, our PGA, as well as our MMA stuff is on there. All of that is right there in the middle, and we usually have something new every single day, whether it be NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, NFL, etc., all right there on our Chalk site. And we work together hand in hand with the Daily Wager show. Same people who write also are on TV. We share all the resources, and that show is on 5 days a week. Today it's on at 5 Eastern. But you get to see the guys every day break down what their picks are going to be for the game and their analysis of why you should jump on some of the games.
So let me ask you this. This might be a little bit too transparent, but you don't have to get down to the individuals. But the individuals on the Daily Wager, are they actually truly betting these games? Or if you can even tell us that, or is it just breaking down the analysis of the information which they feel, is the best side to wager?
Well, I think it depends on who you're referring to. Obviously, our sports betting analysts, whether it's Joe Fortenbaugh, Tyler Fulsham, Doug Kazarian, Nina Marks, Chris the Bear Felica, Stanford Steve is on. They all do bet. As you know, Chris Felica is big into the horses in college football. They all have their specialties. Joe does a lot of NBA. Tyler's big into daily fantasy, so he does a lot of the daily fantasy and prop betting. Anita, same thing, daily fantasy prop betting, big on the horses, big on golf. Doug, well-rounded, knows all the sports, and you'll see Doug in every single one of our columns. He is a professional bettor as well. Some of them do more than others. I would consider some of them professional bettors, while others are more analysts that break down their specific area. But yes, every single one of them, if they're giving you a bet on there, they're betting it themselves.
And that's what we like to hear. I mean, as a handicapper myself, I put my money where my mouth is, and I'll show my tickets and things of that nature.
Sure. I mean, they love to have a diverse portfolio on the show and in chalk. So we kind of give you a little bit of everything, whether it's our prop type guy in Tyler or Anita, as well as Mike Clay during football season, who are around fantasy and props more. As we know, there's a direct connection between daily fantasy and props, and we make that connection on air. Or whether it's game betting, whether Joe or Doug are big into the games as well as the halves and quarters and those type of markets. Pretty much we have it all covered on the show. And prior to that, we had Preston Johnson on the show, who was big into basketball, baseball, and football as well.
That's beautiful. And you've recently added one to the portfolio as well. And so I think most people that are watching this show would know that Kelly in Vegas has now joined the Daily Wager on ESPN. And so talk to us a little bit about that. That's groundbreaking for females in the industry as well, and giving them hope. Not only females, but males as well in the social media market, giving people hope that, ESPN's watching. And so talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, ESPN's definitely watching. We're always looking to see, and grow our talent on air and in print. And Kelly's done a fantastic job the last few years of growing her brand in the social media landscape. Huge following on Twitter and Instagram, and she does podcasts, and she had the Bleacher Report shows and the daily the Wager Talk. So Kelly has a full portfolio of a lot of different things that she does, from written to on-air stuff, radio, pod, etc. Well-rounded with all the different sports. If you followed Kelly over the years, you've seen how much she has grown in the space. And, you hit it right off the top when you introduced the topic. That is groundbreaking for a female in the industry. If you were to go back 5 years ago, she was pretty much one of the only ones. And now you look around and there's females all over the industry doing a great job of breaking through and, presenting sports betting analysis and picks. Kelly served as a role model for a lot of them. And I know people in the industry who have worked with Kelly over the years to get into the industry, and we're more than excited to have her come on board. And she'll start later this summer, and she'll be a huge part of our coverage on Chalk and Daily Wager, Sports Center, and all the other platforms of ESPN. It's a welcome addition to the team, and we're looking forward to it.
Beautiful. I mean, congratulations to Kelly. I mean, it's such a monumental thing in the sports betting space. So congratulations to her. Hey, real quick, not to put you on the spot here, as we close out here, we like to do a 10-minute hitter with you. Bets for you, specifically for you, David. I mean, I heard, you're pretty hot in the golf game, but specifically for today, is there anything that you got your eye on that you can kind of tell the people you're paying close attention to?
Well, as you just hit, I'm a big into betting on golf. You'll see the column that's 2 or 3 down on there is the PGA Tour golf column. I'm watching that pretty much all day, Thursday and Friday. I get into the golf and live bet it and stuff. So right now I have a piece of Bryson DeChambeau's out there, Scotty Scheffler, as well as Ryan Palmer, Mark Leishman are the guys that I have in this tournament, and a couple of other matchups that I'm playing and watching. Aaron Wise is another one. I have not looked yet at our basketball or hockey games for tonight to see what to play, because right now I'm concentrating on the golf, and I usually get into the others later. I did put a couple of wagers down on some NFL futures, not necessarily the games yet, although I would like the Dolphins plus 2.5, but I'm looking at some of the future picks in terms of win totals based on how the schedule looks right now.
That's beautiful. And the futures market's big now. It's really growing. I mean, people are looking at sports betting as sports investing now, and it's just a completely different, or it's getting to be a completely different mindset. What do you think about this as we look at mutual funds and those types of investments as we close out here? Do you think there's a space where there's going to be like a consolidated market for sports betting? So, one advisor taking money from a bunch of different individuals into like a portfolio and making that and turning that into an ROI. Do you think there's something like that in the future for the space?
There is. It just has to be done correctly and in the right legal landscape. I actually went to a conference about 2 years ago where somebody presented an idea that they had that was basically a mutual hedge fund for sports betting, where they were going to take somebody's money and say, hey, I'm going to invest this, basically be the proxy for their fund. Here's the money. We're going to do this over the next 6 months and grow it, et cetera, et cetera. The problem you're running into is, cross state lines with the Wire Act and other things that need to be ironed out. It's not legal in every single state, so depending on where you live and what you're betting. But I think down the line, when there's more and more states come aboard and you can make sure that there's the right checks and balances on this, that I do think it is an opportunity out there It's a great idea to be able to manage portfolios. It's going to take a wee bit of capital to, if you think about it, you're only hitting to get profitable. You got to hit at 52.8%. You don't necessarily have to do that in the stock market to make money. So it is a little bit different in terms of what you would need to get for your ROI there. But there are people out there trying to put that together, and it's all part of the growing sports betting landscape in terms of what you can do. And you mentioned the futures. The futures were growing rapidly over the last few years. And then, of course, when COVID hit, it kind of went backwards a little bit, only because people didn't want their money tied up in sports that they weren't sure whether they were going to be played, whether the season was going to be finished. If the season's finished, is it going to be the right number of games? And the sports books had to change the rules on how many games are played for the futures hit. For example, I had Oklahoma City Thunder over for the NBA season in 2020. They had already hit the over when COVID stopped the season. And then when they resumed it, there were less games than they were originally going to play. And I actually didn't get paid out for that bet, even though they had hit the over before COVID started. They never made it to the 80 games that were required because of the season was shortened. This year, they've changed those rules and made it less games because you never know what's going to happen. But I think as sports come back, as you're seeing full seasons played in the NFL and Major League Baseball, futures are a market that's going to be huge because, the schedule came out yesterday for the NFL. You can make bets right now. Yeah, you got to hold your money for about 8 months, but there are some valuable markets out there to jump into.
Appreciate that insight. Hey, as we close out here, congratulations. David's growing his own brand on social media. He's just hit 10,000 Twitter followers. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
The content that you're providing and the insight is refreshing. So I appreciate, you jumping on my show and adding a little bit of insight into ESPN and, talking a little bit about Kelly. So I appreciate you, and we'll hope to have you back on the show, maybe next week.
I appreciate you having me on, and thanks you, along with many of the others, have helped me get to 10,000. I've only really been in Twitter for about 2.5 years, and it grew rapidly. I started with about 400, now up to 10,000. So thank you for that.
Hey, congratulations. And as we close out another session with Coffee P-Dub, may all your bets be successful today. It's your boy, Proven Winner.